The movies this week. I finally watched Napoleon. Sorry I'm late to the game, but I needed the director's cut and I don't go to movie theaters. So I got, Apple TV for 30 days or whatever the trial situation is. I got that and watched it. And I also watched a little movie called Bezos, The Beginning. Story of Amazon and Jeff Bezos. Bezos. Whatever the fuck his name is. Let's start with the least horrific of the two. Napoleon. Let's start with Napoleon. And first reaction after, well, not an immediate reaction, but after some time away from it, I'm not even sure that I enjoyed this movie. I might watch it again before my Apple Plus free trial ends, see if my opinion on it changes. But as of now, I just think it's an okay movie, at least story-wise. The cinematography and design was fantastic. Looks great. Going into it, I wasn't expecting the story to be particularly pro-Napoleon or anything. After all, Ridley Scott is an Englishman, so that's pretty par of the course for the past 200 years with those people. Oh, we had to go to war. Leave Napoleon alone. He's a good boy. Understandably. But I think a lot of us, like me, wanted to see a movie where Bonaparte is just beasting on screen for over 3 hours. Personally, I was pretty obsessed with the Napoleonic era when I was younger for a while. I read multiple huge biographies on Napoleon Bonaparte, books on Waterloo, and other aspects of the war. Now I have the Peninsular War audiobooks on Audible. I haven't cracked too far into them. It's like over 100 hours. 100+ hour saga. Maybe I never will, with my other reading obligations. Nonetheless, I wanted to see an awesome, more heroized, if that's a word, version of Napoleon Bonaparte. Stop making him a lame. Make it borderline propaganda for Napoleon. Who cares? It's more entertaining that way. And Waterloo was in 1815. He lost. Hate to break the news to you. And it's also completely irrelevant to modern times. Even when people try to shoehorn modern politics or opinions into a historical piece, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I know the rattle-on effects of history keep going on, and we are all still playing out threads that happened then and whatnot. And now I've actually seen some people comparing Trump to Napoleon's comeback with his latest victory. Still, making Napoleon a beast, not in the negative sense, but just like an amazing man of history, it's a way cooler movie that way. He's a more interesting character instead of this flat, boring portrayal that we got from Joaquin. He was not great. I don't know if it was the script or just his choices. I'm leaning more towards a lot of his choices to play him like a retard. Give me something else. If you want an in-depth psychological breakdown of the man, or a chastisement of all of his faults, or you want to talk about all the dead bodies and all the problems it caused Europe, or you even want complete historical accuracy, go read a book. Right? There's plenty of that available on the market. Give me more of a near mythological man, a conqueror, and pair it with badass cinematography. You can still have the strong Josephine character in the mix. This way, it's a great movie, you have all your bases covered, and it's a fun watching experience. Not that Ridley Scott was going for historical accuracy, as he said in interviews, I'm pretty sure. He's doing entertainment. And I will say it again, the great man of history idea is more entertaining as a character versus some off-putting autist, regardless of which of these characters is more accurate to the real-life person of Napoleon. Everything is just it's not real anyway. It's not a documentary. There's always a distance between what's real about the person and what's the character. But even with all that, in my mind, you still cannot really tell the tale of Napoleon Bonaparte in movie form. Even with this extended edition, It's still light on a lot of different details. Probably why Ridley Scott focused on the relationship with Josephine, but it also kind of made the rest of what was going on seem, I don't know, some of it seemed unimportant or just glossed over in the grand scheme of things. Now, I never saw the original cut, so that must have been like condensed, really, really condensed, if this was the expanded edition. I saw that Ridley also said he has a 4+ hour version, and if that ever comes out, I'll probably watch it. Again, I'm not sure that you could still tell all Napoleon's story, or not even just not even all of his story, just tell it overall well in such a short time frame. Even the old miniseries still can't really put it all together in a completely satisfying way. I watched the miniseries. I forgot who's in that. Was it Isabella Rossellini playing Josephine? Maybe. I could be completely wrong. That was okay. But they didn't have the budget that this film had. This film had the budget, but not enough time. Even with 3+ hours, you can't capture enough detail. Unless you just turbocharge Napoleon as a character. Make him mythological. Then it works better. The pace picks up and everything, right? There just wasn't very much in this movie that was compelling to me. Nothing, at least to me, nothing felt really compelling here. I did like the second half of the movie more. The Austerlitz sequence I thought was great. We get to see more battles happening in the second half, which helps us see some of the military genius of Napoleon. In the beginning of the film, he's just like, he seems like a weird guy who's off-putting and also at times feels pretty stupid. Not a genius or anyone too intelligent. We get glimpses of what propelled him to the top, but here it seems like it just sort of happens for him. He just finds his way to the top of post-revolutionary society, or that Josephine is the main catalyst. And you don't get much of an idea from the film of why the guy was so good at what he did. Again, Joaquin, he's a mid-Napoleon. There doesn't seem to be any sort of charisma as to why anyone would follow this guy or even fear him in his genius. Aside from his power fuck move he did while having sex. It's just not a great characterization of the man. That was the funniest part of the movie when he's having sex and just he just gets in and fucks as hard as he can for like 40 seconds and then busts. That's the kind of guy we need. We need more of that. They were trying to make him look bad. He just looked efficient to me. He looked like a man who knew what he wanted. But then they had to make him a cuck, and he had asked Josephine's lover about how the lover, Hippolyte Charles, whatever his name is, how he's so good in bed and how he pleases women. The character and the actress who played Josephine was good. Maybe too much of the focus, in my opinion, but I guess she has to be the focus when it doesn't seem like Napoleon's going to be too much of a dynamic main character in the film he's named after. Napoleon felt like such a passive character. So if you've read any Haruki Murakami novels, his characters are just like, things just happen to them most of the time. They don't really take any action. And that's a lot of what Napoleon felt like. He's not taking as much action as a guy who literally climbed from the bottom of French society as a Corsican and took over after the complete chaos of the revolution. He's just like, I'm emperor now. And he's kind of an asshole, and he's autistic seeming and all that shit. And he's a cuck, and he's a monster, and he has hemorrhoids too. Why they gotta do my boy like that? I planned on watching again, but it looks like I have to re-up Apple TV if I'm gonna watch the director's cut once more, since I can't rent that version off Amazon, and I think my Apple TV expired. Yeah, so I actually did watch that a while ago, I guess. Perhaps there's some more redeeming qualities about this movie that I'm missing. However, after plenty of time passing since my viewing of this film, there's not too much that sticks out in my mind about it. I can still visualize certain scenes, which I suppose that's good. At least visually, the movie stuck with me, since my mind's eye isn't very strong at recalling my visuals after one viewing of something. Overall, it's fine. Not Ridley Scott's best movie, but certainly more. It's probably the most ambitious in scale, at least, which I appreciate. And I'm also pumped on seeing Gladiator 2. I'm glad I waited to see Napoleon this late, because now Gladiator 2 is about to come out, which I, again, won't see in theaters, but I will buy it or rent it as soon as it comes out. Probably on Amazon, which is the subject of my very next film viewing. Bezos, The Beginning. And what an absolute pile of shit this was. This movie is horrifically bad. Really, it's the anti-Napoleon. You take a story that isn't too interesting at all, in Jeff Bezos starting an online bookstore, then somehow you manage to botch that and make it even more boring than it sounds. So the movie starts off, and Jeff is just sitting at his computer, and he reads an online article that says shopping online is growing at 2,300% a year. And he just sits back in his chair, stroking his chin. And this scene happens multiple times, looking at the same article throughout the movie. He does this multiple times. And then there's B-roll of him walking around in the city and stores and all this other stuff. For a solid, I would guess, 20 minutes of this movie, he's just walking around. There's B-roll of him touching books. There's slow motion B-roll of every aspect of every scene. And the guy playing Jeff Bezos looks like someone shitting his ice cream the entire film. This sad, droopy face who's angry and also a complete fucking dork. Then he gets all amped up because Jeff is not going to live a life of regret. He decides that. He's got a regret minimizing framework. And I got so hyped listening to his speech, delivered with all of the excitement of ordering a pizza over the telephone. And that's what you need to take away from this film. Just try random projects and things that you want to do, and eventually it'll work out. You'll own Amazon. You'll create Amazon the biggest retailer on the fucking planet. Other highlights, Emilio Estefan as the stepdad, who looks like Peter Schiff. He does not speak English well. He has a very heavy accent. Let me tell you something, Jeff. Your idea isn't going to work. Books are going to go to zero, just like the dollar, just like that scam Bitcoin. You got to buy gold. You got to go to shiftgold.com and buy some gold from our team of customer reps. But Emilio Estefan, he's like the scene in Scarface when Tony's doing the dishes. Wash on yourself. And both, it's not just him and his accent. Both parents are terrible actors. Jeff and Mackenzie show up to their house, and none of these people have any chemistry or familiarity with one another. They're asking his wife if Jeff is still disorganized. It's like it feels like the first time they've ever met this woman, even though she's their daughter-in-law. He's literally married to her, and they're acting as if she's just this brand new entity, asking all the same sorts of questions you would ask someone that you just met 5 minutes ago at a networking event. It's insane. And then the movie shows Jeff pitching Amazon to every single person he knows on the phone, plus to his parents, and having to explain the, once again, 2,300% growth rate of the internet year over year, again and again from that same article that he spent 20 minutes in the film looking at. You watch this movie, the start of Amazon versus The Social Network, and how each approaches the birth of some transformative company that started online, right? And you say to yourself, there wasn't another angle to take with this story in order to make it interesting? We're 45 minutes into the movie. Not a shred of dramatic tension or one single character that you need to care about whatsoever. These are all real people they're portraying, and I'm embarrassed for them that this is their representation. For instance, there's a programmer character, a guy who Jeff hires in order to set up the website, who's supposed to be a complete genius. But it seems like the actor who's playing him can barely read. I don't think the guy is literate. He has no conviction in delivering his lines, and it seems like he's forgetting them. And that was the best take they had. Finally, the great Kevin Sorbo comes in. We get a Kevin Sorbo sighting. He comes in to save the day, and he's playing a villain, which is great. I love Kevin Sorbo as a complete dickhead in this film. He plays the guy who started Barnes & Noble, and he immediately hits Jeff Bezos with a trick of calling him by the wrong name in order to make him seem like a bitch and intimidate him. Honestly, edgy, cutthroat Kevin Sorbo rules. I like it. That he's the star of this film. The only thing saving it from 0 stars. Sorbo gives this movie a half star in my book. And then, oh no, the next scene, Jeff and Mackenzie's marriage is falling apart. They're like, oh God, you're just spending so much time on the website and ignoring me. And he's like, we're naming it Amazon.com because it's the biggest river in the world. 5 times bigger than the second largest. And that's the film. That's the film, basically. He starts Amazon and they start getting orders, and his marriage is shaky, and the programmer genius who can barely read, leaves the company. He resigns because he's had enough of Bezos' bullshit. We're naming it Amazon. It's the biggest river in the world. Now I'm going to have... Now, my idea with the site is that I'm going to have the world's largest blast after years of preparation, because in my remake of this film, my name's going to be Jeff Bustos. I'm trying to raise money from seed investors. And when July comes around, I'm gonna launch this website on my webcam with the world's biggest blast. And the info before the credits rolls, it says Jeff Bustos became the world's bustingest man in 2021, hitting a market cap of over 400 decaliters.